kill me, but I do have to embarrass a really good friend of mine, Laura McNeil. I'm going to dedicate this story to her tonight, and I think she may have heard me tell the story before, but it's so nice when a really good friend of yours will come and listen to you speak, and you really don't want to screw up. So thanks for the extra pressure, Laura, for coming. But I dedicate this story to you, okay? Now, this story, it's my favourite because it's about revenge on my brother, but it's also my favourite because it shows a lot about the way I think when I write. And I guess that's my job when I come to something like this, is to show people how I do write. And my brother didn't treat me that well when we were growing up, particularly when I was in my early teenage years. He was 2 years older than me, and he would do mind-numbingly sort of violent things. Like I would walk into the kitchen and he'd punch me. For no reason. And I'd say to him, "What was that for?" And he'd just say, I was bored. And he'd do things like that. But then he could do things where I had to actually pay I'd have to pay the imagination that he had come up with to do this. So he could do things that were psychologically damaging as well. And just to give you an idea, not necessarily damaging, but just things that really made me think about my position in the household. And we had this ritual when we got home from school every day. We'd watch TV at 3:30, and this is where I get to thank your great country, because for 10 years on a solid loop, for 3 years straight, we watched Bewitched, Happy Days, and I Dream of Jeannie. This was on every afternoon at 3:30, and it was like the best days of our lives. And we'd sit there, we'd eat toast, and that's what we did every day. And one day I made a mistake. I took my 2 toasts into the lounge room, and I left them there. And I went back to the kitchen to get a drink. Now, anyone here with an older brother knows that's a mistake. You don't leave food unsupervised. And what he did, he didn't hide the toast. He didn't eat all the toast and then say, "I don't know where your toasts are." He took each piece of the bread, which was still a square, folded it in half and took a really big bite out of the middle. Then unfolded it again and put it back on the plate. And so I get back, my 2 toasts, you can still eat it, but those big holes in the middle of the toast, they're like a reminder of who's in charge. And all my life I wanted to get him back for everything, and I finally got my chance because we used to work with my dad. Now, my dad is a house painter. Every Saturday, we were still in school, of course, and every Saturday when I was 15, my brother was 17, we worked with him painting houses. And we'd get up at 6:30, by 7 o'clock we'd leave the house, by 7:30 we'd go to somebody else's house painting. And at midday we'd have lunch, we'd sit on paint tins and eat our lunch. And my brother had a this is where I'll teach you an Australian word now. My brother had a red esky. Translation of that is cooler. And so in this red esky or cooler, he had 2 sandwiches, a drink, and 2 hard-boiled eggs that he would eat every day, every Saturday at work. Now, some of you can probably already see where the story's going. If you can't, you will in a minute. Because one week my dad said to him, I used to work with a guy back in Vienna. My dad's from Austria. He said, I knew a guy, and we worked together, and he would crack a hard-boiled egg on his head. So now you know exactly where we are. And so my brother said, I'll give it a try. And he cracked the first egg on his head, and he did it really well. He peeled it and he ate it, so he did the second egg as well. And he was so proud of the achievement that he did it the next week as well, and the week after, till it was just part of the lunch routine, get the egg out and crack it on his head. And then one week he did something to me at school. I don't remember what it is anymore, but I remember sitting on the ground, and it was like a ray of light came out of the sky. That's my one miracle. And I saw that what I had to do. And that Friday, he'd made his eggs, he boiled them up, he put them in the fridge in the morning, he put them in his esky, and that esky was next to the front door at 5 minutes to 7, and that's when he made his fatal error, and he went to the bathroom. While he was in there, I took the esky back to the fridge, took the 2 hard-boiled eggs out, put them back in the fridge, and of course replaced them with 2 raw eggs, and put the esky back next to the front door in exactly the same position. Even the handle was at exactly the same angle. It was perfect. Right? And he came out of the bathroom, shoved past me, picked up the esky, went out the front door to my dad's combi van, And I remember thinking as he left the house, this is going to be the best day of my life. But, you know, when you do something like that, you're thinking, how great is this? And then all that morning, I had all that morning to think about it. And by 11 o'clock, I was just torn between this agony and ecstasy. There's the ecstasy of seeing him do it, but then there's the agony of what's going to happen afterwards. And by 11 o'clock, or 11:15, I cracked under the pressure, and I went and I confessed what I'd done to my dad. Again, don't worry, he'll be all right. And so I'm standing there. My dad's high up painting some eaves, and he looks down. Now, my dad was always yelling at us at work, telling us to stop bludging or loafing around, stop throwing things at each other, and just to hurry up, okay? And so he looked down, he said, "What are you doing here? You should be working." I said, "Oh, I've done something really bad." He came down the ladder, and he was used to me screwing things up at work, like spilling paint, or walking through dirt, and then walking through someone's new carpet, and stuff like that. And so he said, "All right, show me what you screwed up this time." I said, "No, it's nothing like that." And he said, "Well, what is it then?" And that's when I got cold feet all over again. I said, "Don't worry about it." I've stopped work, I've come down the ladder, you're going to tell me what you've done. And then I said, "All right." I said, "Okay." I said, "You know, Rob's 2 hard-boiled eggs, I've replaced them with 2 raw eggs." And my dad looked at me, and he put his paintbrush down, and he shook his head. He said, "Son, that's brilliant." You go back to work, I'll go back to work, see you at lunch. Don't be late. And lunch came and we're sitting there on the paint tin. My dad, he's looking at me and he's saying, "I can't believe I didn't think of this." He's disappointed in himself. And then finally my brother came by and we're both watching him. We've got our eyes glued to him because you don't want to be looking the wrong way. It's the best moment of your life. And he said, "What are you 2 looking at?" And we just said, "Nothing." But I'm thinking, of course, yeah, you just wait and see. And he reached into his FD and he pulled out the first egg. He hadn't even sat down yet, and he did crack it on his head, and it went over his nose, on his mouth, on his chin, eventually landed on his shoes. Now, the one time I've ever seen my brother speechless. Standing there, my dad, he was on the ground laughing. And you should have seen the filthy look my brother's giving him. I was thinking, how are you going to blame my dad? This is even better. But then, I should have been laughing myself, but I wasn't. I'm doing that thing where you know you're about to get in trouble, so you try not to just be calm. And that was abnormal behaviour, because if I saw my brother crack an egg on his head, I would have been laughing. And so he knew it was me, and he said it was you, wasn't it? And by then I gave up, because I was proud of what I'd done. Alright, on every level, I was proud of what I'd done, and I said, "Oh yeah, it was me." And he picked me up, he took me around the side of the house. Now, he pushed me against the wall. I just painted that wall, so the paint was down my back. And then he, you know what boys are like, he hit me in the stomach. And then just with the palm of his hand, he just tapped me on the nose. And you know when you've been hit on the nose or you've walked into something, and your eyes start watering? I was winded, my eyes were watering. But after 2 or 3 minutes, the pain slowly went away. That's when the smile returned to my face. And I thought, you know, I think that was worth it. 2 minutes of pain, but the memory of that egg on my brother's face, that lasts our whole life. So whenever he comes and visits me now, he lives about 5 hours away. And I still live in Sydney, where we grew up, and not in the same house. But every time he comes to my place, I say, "Geez, 5-hour drive, did you eat on the way? I could maybe cook you something. I haven't got much here, but I could at least maybe make you some eggs or something." He says, "Well, that was more than 15 years ago. When are you ever going to get over that?" I actually think we had the 20-year anniversary not that long ago. And I just look at him and I say, "I'm never getting over that." And I'm absolutely serious. And so that is my favourite story about my brother, about pretty much anything, and I can never resist telling it, mainly though because it does show the way I think when I write. And to start off with, first of all, it's a story I just took straight from my own life, and every writer will always say to mind your own life, okay? Secondly, I could ask you maybe 20 to 30 questions about that story, not to check if you were listening, but if I said to you what colour was my brother's esky, you'd be able to tell me that it was red. If I asked you what we sat on to eat our lunch, you'd say paint tins, and so on. Now, why did I mention those small details in the story?